discussed the molecular solid and its type, that is non-polar molecular solid, polar molecular solid and hydrogen bonded molecular solid. Now we are going to study about the ionic solid. Now in the ionic solid, the constituent particles are the ions, that is positive charge and negatively charged ions, right? And the force of interaction, or we can say the intermolecular forces between these ions will be the electrostatic force of attraction between the oppositely charged ions will hold them. So ionic solid, they are the solid in which the constant particles are the ions, oppositely charged ions, and the force of attraction between them is the electrostatic force of attraction between them. Right? Now the ionic solid, example, we can take NaCl, KNO3, KBr, right? So here the ionic solids, they are examples NaCl, potassium nitrate and KBr. Now the ionic solid. The ionic solids, they are hard but brittle, right? The ionic solids, they are poor conductor of electricity in solid state. Though they contain the ions, but since the ions are not free to move, so in the solid state they will be poor conductor. They will not conduct the electricity, right? But when in solution or in melt, the ions are set free to conduct electricity. So in general, what we say that the ionic solids, they are the poor conductor of electricity, right? And they dissolve in polar or polar solvent, like water. So when it is a polar solvent, they will dissolve, and they will not dissolve in non-polar solvent like benzene, CCl4. They will not get dissolved in this. So the ionic solids, they have the constant particles ions, and the force of attraction between them is the electrostatic force of attraction. So these are the hard and brittle solids, right? They dissolve in the polar solvent, and they have high melting point and boiling point. Now the next type of solid is the metallic solid. So in the metallic solid or metallic solid, the constituent particles are the positively charged ion, that is a metal ion here, called as kernels, immersed in the sea of mobile electron, right? So in the metallic solid, we have got the constant particles, the positively charged ions, which are called kernels, immersed in the sea of mobile electron, and this theory is known as electron sea model theory, right? So let me diagrammatically just show it here, that how the metal ions, which are the called kernels, are been immersed in the sea of mobile electron. Now, the metal atom, right? It has its outermost shell electron is less tightly held to the nucleus, and the metal has a tendency to lose 1, 2 or 3 electrons. Now, let us consider the metal here, any metal. So, we are denoting the positively charged ion as plus sign. Now, we have got this plus. These are all the metal atom which have lost the outermost shell electrons. So we are denoting them by positive sign. Now these are representing the kernels here, right? Now every metal atom, right, has got a kernel and the outermost shell electron which its tendency is to lose, right? Now let it be this E negative. I am showing it here. This is E negative. So it is also there, E negative. So you can see that here the positively charged kernels, they are just floating in the sea. The sea of the electrons. These all electrons are outermost shell electrons which are free to move, and that's what is known as in the sea of mobile electrons, right? So when the external electric field is applied, or whenever the electric field is been applied, now these electricity or the electron will flow through these positive charged kernels. Will move through it. In the similar way, when it is being heated, when the metal atom is heated, the heat is being transferred through this kernels, passing through the sea of mobile electrons. Right? So here the force of attraction between the two kernels, right, is known as the metallic bond. So what is the intermolecular? What is the force here of attraction? It's a metallic bond which is between the positively charged kernels, metallic bond, right? And due to this metallic bond, right, the metal atoms, just write down the characteristic of it. We know that metals are hard, but few are there which are soft also, right? Then the metals have high melting point. They are good conductor of of electricity, as well as they show thermal conductivity also. Right, they conduct the heat also. Thermal conductivity is also high, and they are malleable, ductile, lustrous, which are the characteristics of the metal: malleable, lustrous, and ductile. I think everyone knows what is the malleable, lustrous, and ductile. So lustrous, we first the malleable. Malleable is the tendency of the metal atom through which they can be drawn into sheets, and the ductile is that through which they can be drawn into wires. Lustrous means the shiny surface, right? This metal shows a shine on its surface. This is known as the lustrous, and they are sonorous also, sound producing also. So here we have discussed the metallic solid, where the constituent particles are the positively charged kernels, and these kernels are immersed in the sea of the mobile electrons, right? And the intermolecular force, or the force which is holding the metal atoms in the crystal, right, it will be the metallic bond. And the metals can be hard. They are generally hard, but few are there which are soft. They have got a high melting point, good conductor of electricity, and thermal conductivity is also good, malleable, lustrous, and ductile. Okay, now the next one is the covalent or network solid. Now the covalent or the network solid. In these solids, the constituent particles are the non-metal atoms. right? The non-metal atoms which are linked to the adjacent non-metal atom through the covalent bond, right? So we are going to discuss here the fourth one, which is the covalent or network solid. So the covalent or network solid, the constituent particles are non-metal atoms which are linked to adjacent atom through covalent bond, right? So through a covalent bond they will be linked up, and these type of solid, they have got a large network. They are spread to a long distance and number of atoms are involved, so that's why they are known as network solid, as they form a giant structure, right? Here the example we can take diamond, graphite, silica, will also come here, silicon carbide, which is also known as corundum, right? Or aluminium nitride or boron nitride, right? These are the examples of the covalent or the network solid. Now, if you just see the structure of diamond, right? Here these are the diamond and graphite. They are the allotropes of the carbon atom. So in diamond, what is there? That each carbon atom, right? It is being surrounded by other carbon atom in a tetrahedral form, and each carbon atom here is sp3 hybridized, right? Whereas in graphite, here we have got the layered structure, right? And each carbon atom here is sp2 hybridized, and the graphite conduct the electricity, whereas the diamond do not conduct the electricity. Now the covalent or network solid, they are hard, right? And they have got the high melting point. And their melting point is so much high that before the melting point, few of the solids, they just get decomposed, right? So just in a nutshell, that the crystalline solids have been divided into, we're just going to just revise that what is the classification of crystalline solid. So crystalline solid is divided into four types: molecular solid, ionic solid, metallic solid, and covalent or network solid, right? So just study this.